Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So a new poll dropped for next fall, the 2026 midterms out of Qantas, and it actually has the Republicans in the lead, 46 to 45. Yes, there's 9% undecided, but still Qantas was one of the most accurate pollsters in the 2024 presidential election, and they currently show Republicans in the lead. Democrats are hoping, because Trump's in the White House, they're trying to manufacture a lot of this energy against Donald Trump and the Republicans, but it doesn't seem like we're in for a 2018 repeat. It seems like we're in for more of a reverse 2022, if anything. And when it comes down to the Senate races, that's where it really starts to get ugly for Democrats, because it is true they can retake the House. It's not even a sure thing. But if you look at the Senate, it doesn't really seem as if there's many flip opportunities for the Democrats to be able to go out there and even get to 50, let alone 51. Like, their best case scenario would be maybe you get to 49 and then you might have an outside chance to flip it in 2028 if everything goes right. But even then, it's unlikely that the math is going to be in their favor enough for them to, given the way that some of these states are going. And we're going to be breaking down in this video the 5 most important, crucial, closest Senate elections of the 2026 midterms. And 2 of these seats are currently controlled by Republicans. 3 of these seats are actually controlled by the Democrats, but I did want to break down these 5 races, do like a mini deep dive of each one. So without further ado, let's get started. So you look at the Senate map here, you have the retirees bolded. You have retirements from the Democrats out of Michigan, New Hampshire, and Minnesota, which are going to help out the Republicans in each of those 3 states, even if they don't flip them all. For example, Minnesota, I don't really see it being that competitive, but Democrats are going to have to allocate more resources there than they would otherwise. Meanwhile, Mitch McConnell's retiring in Kentucky, and that's another bonus for Republicans for very, very different reasons. But I wanted to start off with the state of Maine in this video, because this state is currently a Democrat state, as most people know, but you have a Republican senator, Susan Collins. Now, Susan Collins is somebody who is a rhino, but it's a tolerable situation where you can have a rhino in a state that voted against Donald Trump by 7 percentage points. Maine is not a state that is even remotely a red state. I can't really see a very, Trump-aligned Republican win it. However, Susan Collins votes the right way probably like 70, 80% of the time. If you primary her out, you're spending resources to essentially elect a Democrat to the seat. And Collins is somebody, they thought that she was going to lose last time around, but she prevailed by like close to 10 points when Donald Trump lost the state in 2020 by close to 10 points. And then you look at the Democrat side, who exactly is going to run for this? We heard that Jared Golden is probably considering a run for governor. Maybe he runs for re-election. We'll see what happens on that front. But it's like, even if Janet Mills, the current governor, decides to go for the seat, is she even going to be able to go out there and win? Does she want to risk her, political career on a run against Susan Collins that probably ends up falling short? I'm not entirely sure what is going to happen there, but you look at this, a lot of people are saying lean R, and I think lean R is about right. Even if you have a high-profile Democrat as the nominee, just like you did last time, Maine is a state that is very independent-minded, and I think Susan Collins probably holds on, but it is still going to be one of those 5 competitive Senate races. It's just one the Republicans are going to have to play a little bit of defense in. And the same thing could be said for North Carolina, where you have an incumbent, Tom Tillis. He probably is going to win the primary. There were talks about him getting primaried out, but it does seem as if he has voted for basically every Trump cabinet appointee. He's a party line vote for Donald Trump at this stage in the game. If there was somebody that was a better candidate who was considering running, and actually would be favored to win the general, then maybe they'd be in the mix as well. But I just don't think that candidate really exists. Meanwhile, on the Democrat side, they're not entirely sure who their nominee is going to be. Wiley Nickel has expressed interest. Roy Cooper, the former governor of North Carolina, has also expressed interest in running for this seat. Personally, I think that this is going to be a close race, regardless of who the Democrat nominee is, because Tillis, he's not like super popular, but still it's North Carolina, and Republicans are gaining in the voter registration there every single dump that we get. And it's a midterm year, so black turnout's probably going to be a little bit lower, which is going to help out Republicans in the state of North Carolina, as it typically does, because the lower propensity electorate in North Carolina is less Republican than it is in like the upper Midwest, for example. So regardless, I think that North Carolina, this is a state that Republicans are probably going to hold on to, but it's going to be close. Roy Cooper, he was a popular governor, but at the same time, statewide gubernatorial elections and federal elections cannot be compared. These are two separate ball games. You know, people could tolerate a Democrat governor. Doesn't mean that in terms of the Senate, they're willing to be as easily willing to elect a Democrat to that Senate seat. But if anybody could win, it probably would be Cooper, but he is a little bit overrated. So now we get to go to the offense side of things. Where can the Republicans pick up seats? So I think that the easy answer here is the state of Georgia, because kind of similar to North Carolina, the higher propensity electorate that votes more often, and this is true in much of the Deep South, is more Republican leaning, unlike what we see in places like the upper Midwest. And that helps out Republicans. And Georgia, down ballot in midterm years, like 2018, like 2022, with the exception of Herschel Walker, has voted Republican unanimously for statewide office. Now, the state has moved to the left, but John Ossoff won on a fluke. He won on a fluke because you had lower turnout. You know, he didn't even get a plurality in round one, let alone a majority, against David Perdue, who was not that strong of an incumbent, was not really a great campaigner, didn't even debate him ahead of the runoff. And on top of it, you had the runoff plagued by, you know, just the chaotic environment, the fact Republicans didn't want to give out another round of stimulus checks. And you had the Stacey Abrams machine back then, which is now basically defunct. It's broken. It doesn't really even work anymore, and we kind of saw that in 2024, and you have new election laws in Georgia. It's still moving to the left because of growth in Atlanta, but you have Brian Kemp very likely going to run on the Republican side, and I'm not the biggest fan of the guy, but he is very likely going to get, you know, the Trump endorsement, the, you know, unanimous endorsements. He's going to go out there, win the primary 75-25 against some no-name, and he's going to go on to the general. And it's going to be a race that is going to be fairly close. But you look at several polls we've seen. They are right-leaning polls. But still, Brian Kemp has led in every single one. I think he would win, actually. I think he is going to win. And I think he's going to win without a runoff in the state of Georgia. So you would talk about Republicans, if they get those three, they would be at 54. It would be a gain of 1. Where else can they go on offense? Well, Michigan, you have Gary Peters retiring, and we'll get to Michigan in a little bit, but New Hampshire is the state that's entering the conversation, which a lot of us did not expect to be the case, because Jeanne Shaheen, who initially filed paperwork, it seemed, has decided to retire, and she has declined a run, so you see what's going on. Chris Pappas is probably the strongest Democrat because of name recognition they could put up, but still, he's no electoral juggernaut. He's no Jeanne Shaheen. But you do have on the Republican side Chris Sununu, who said he wouldn't go for it. Now it seems like he's game. He's going to go for it. And I think he very possibly is going to win. I think the entire field is going to be cleared. And again, he's not the strongest Republican, but this is a state that hasn't gone Republican since before I could walk. I mean, 2000. That was the last time at the presidential level. So to get anybody in there, somebody who has shown that they can be a team player and probably be a party line vote in a state like New Hampshire and can win the election, I think that would be a very, very good recruit. I know some of these polls show it as lean D. However, we've seen polls that have Sununu. I mean, he was ahead of Shaheen as well, but he's in like the mid-50s, and I don't think he's going to win by like 9. And we know Larry Hogan was polling very high early on, except nobody knew who Also Brooks was. And even if Sununu outperformed Trump at the rate Hogan did, he'd win the state by, close to 9 anyways, to the point where, yeah, New Hampshire's not Maryland. You can't make that comparison. He is a strong candidate. He can win, but is it going to be closer at the end of the day? I'm sure. But you see party registration trends favorable to Republicans in New Hampshire all around. It does seem as if that's a seat that possibly could flip. And if Republicans get these 4 Senate seats, I'm not saying they will get all 4, but if they do, folks, that's 55 Senate seats. They're on their way to 60. That's like a filibuster-proof majority. And then if there's going to be a 56, that would be in Michigan. This is going to be one to watch. But sadly, Pete Buttigieg, who was the front runner for the Democrats, it did kind of seem as if he backed out. He wants to run for president, which is laughable. But you look at who's actually, expressing interest. You have a lot of candidates that are not really all that strong. But in a midterm year in Michigan, where the Michigan Republican Party, it's gotten better than what it was in 2022, but it still is not great. Donald Trump is able to transcend that. A lot of these other people aren't. Either way, it really does seem as if the Democrats are going to be favored in this race to start with. Doesn't mean they're going to win at the end of the day. Now, the governor's race is a little bit different. It's very possible Republicans could go out there and pick it up because it's a 3-way race. That shouldn't be too difficult to get done. However, on the Republican side, you have Mike Rogers. He possibly could run for it again. And then you have Tudor Dixon, who ran for governor in 2022, got absolutely decimated by Gretchen Whitmer by like 11 points. She has expressed interest, and I'm not really the biggest Mike Rogers fan, but Tudor Dixon, I don't think she should be the nominee. She absolutely got decimated last time around, and I don't think she'd lose by 11 if she was going to run for Senate. But still, she's had those controversial abortion positions. Michigan is not really a pro-life state. I wish it was. It's not. You need somebody that knows how to run strategically on that issue in a lot of these Rust Belt states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. It's partially why we didn't do so well in 2022. It wasn't necessarily the Dobbs decision, but how a lot of these Republican candidates navigated it, and we saw what happened there. So we got to be careful about that. But Tudor Dixon, could she run for it? It's possible, but I think that Trump probably is just going to give her some position in his administration so he doesn't risk running somebody who is probably going to lose by upper single digits in the Senate race. Is there somebody better than Mike Rogers out there? Possibly. I'm not entirely sure who that would be if somebody else wants to run. But regardless, he probably wouldn't be favored, and we would never have to hear from him again. But if he wins, he'll probably be a party line vote. So either way, I kind of see it as a win-win. I see it as like a Dave McCormick type of situation going on. So regardless, these are the top 5 Senate races. Can Republicans win 3, if not 4 of them? If they win just 3 of these 5, they are going to have a net gain of Senate seats in a Donald Trump midterm for the 2nd consecutive Donald Trump midterm. And for the 3rd consecutive midterm, the party that's in power would gain seats and expand their majority, which is a very interesting tidbit, but it's true. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.